Hi there, everybody. It's Kirby James from the GYST Show, and wanted to bring you an item here that's really something that nobody wishes will happen to them. But, somehow it seems to happen. So I am here today, as always, with
Nicole Gerard, also from the GYST Method Show. And Kirby is correct. There is a scenario that a lot of organizations fall into that we know is preventable. Doesn't have to go this way.
So a little bit of background. In my corporate career, at one stage, I was heading up the global risk management, crisis management, business continuity, part of a business. And one of the things I saw in an entire career around risk management is that even really well-prepared organizations can have a crisis.
Of course.
There's a couple of flavors that are pertinent to GYST moments that I felt we really could talk about here. One is a little bit like resilience, which is the stuff that you can do on the front end so that you hopefully prevent those crises, or when they come, you're much, much more prepared.
Yeah.
Then there's the consequence of when they happen and what you can learn from them.
Yeah, exactly.
So my view when it comes to this is that your culture really shows its true colors in the days before the crisis arrives, and then at that moment and what happens afterwards. I've been part of massive radiation leaks, 9/11 on a global scale, it just all kinds of stuff. But the first thing I would really want to put out there is that a lot of folks have the attitude towards crises like they do to accidents. The phrase accidents happen. And in my view, accidents happen more to people who think they're out of their control.
Absolutely. Same with the crises.
Right, exactly. So, well, what are we supposed to do? Lots. And this is actually a GYST moment before the fact, because there's this fabulous opportunity to realize just how much you can do. And, hoping and wishing just is a really, really crappy leadership strategy.
Yeah, and I think that does go back to what we keep hammering home, or hopefully are hammering home, with resilience, and even more specifically planning. Because for me, the resilience falls into that, because it's what you do through the planning that helps you build up that resilience as you go along, right? But there's so much that you can do that and throughout my career as well, like every massive product launch, every new, because it always is in the healthcare space, drug to market, like all of these things that are important, but with enough experience, you start to recognize all the little decision points where if you take a step back and actually prepare properly, the crisis at the end of the tunnel could have been avoided.
And even when it can't always, because sometimes it can't.
Sure.
The stars align with things that are outside of your control. The little things do go wrong, even when you've done a really, really good job.
Yes.
To me, though, and this comes from, programs that I've either taken or taught in accident investigation, incident investigation, is that there's always an explanation. And when the explanation comes from either structures like your processes, they come from your mindset because of the way you've cultivated the way people think, or they come from your culture, particularly, I find, passive cultures, where people won't say what needs to be said because
they don't want to hurt each other's feelings,
or, the things we've talked about cultures before.
Yeah.
When you find what it is, to me, too often, symptoms are addressed rather than actual causes.
Yeah. And I think in the conversation we were having before, about organizations that seem to continually move from crisis to crisis to crisis. They are indeed just sort of, they're in the firefighting stage perpetually, and they never actually address the root cause of the symptoms that they're fighting against.
And firefighting is a really interesting example. Some guys I play hockey with, their sons are actually forest firefighters.
Ooh, it's a dangerous job.
Dangerous, like brutal
Yeah.
work. Even there, the big fires they've been having, in BC and elsewhere, what they've come to realize is that the lack of foresight with forest management has actually been why they keep getting bigger and worse. Yes, there's climate change. Yes, there's a whole bunch of factors. But what ended up happening was they realized that they were part of the system. And that, to me, right there, that's a GYST moment when you can look at each other, around a truck, around a boardroom, wherever it happens, and look at each other and go, oh, holy crap.
Yeah.
We're actually part of the reason these things happen.
You just saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those moments have opportunities to take a couple of different paths. And one of them is that moment happens no matter what. And you're like, oh. And then there's the, okay, so we agree never to tell anybody and hope nobody finds out approach. Right. And, or, we'll blame it on this, blame it on that, cover it with this, distract with that. Or there's the people who turn around and look at it. It's just like, nope, that's it. Okay. Mea culpa. We're on the hook for this. Then they could start a real conversation about what's really going to happen, what's really going to make a difference, so that you get out of the cycle.
I think one of the questions that needs to be asked is, because you and I talk a lot about identifying that GYST moment, building that resilience, but it's interesting to see how close some people will get to it, like that moment, and how they back away. Like it becomes scary again. Like, for example, like once you've seen that you're part of this systemic issue, if you will, that no matter what project or change is being thrown at your division or your organization, it becomes a shit show. Once you step back and see what needs to be seen, you can't unsee it. Yeah. Right? And a lot of people, that terrifies them. They don't know what to do.
Well, and worse than that, especially when they don't take action that's rooted in dealing with the reality of the moment.
Yeah.
They carry it like an anxiety.
Yeah.
Because they know. And they also know that, to be maybe too cruel, they're being chicken shit about it. And they're not actually doing the thing that counts. The weird thing for me is almost how universal this is. You can see it in a business. You can see it, with their entire business strategy. You can see it with parts of their operations. You see it with big companies and small companies. And you see it in the lives of individual people. The patterns that they detect, they see, they have that GYST moment, which is, okay, I don't know the answer, but I know it's me. Okay, because I've been dating all these people and they keep turning into, yard sales every time. And, I've dated X number of different people. It can't all be them. And you come to that moment. Some people call them come to Jesus moments. We call them GYST moments.
Yeah.
But they're really that opportunity to get over, quite frankly, get over yourself and get over what you described accurately, in my opinion, is some kind or flavor of fear, insecurity, or whatever. And given the choice, they take the easy road, the path of least resistance.
It's funny because when you do what we do, or a version of it, and you actually get to gain visibility inside of individuals and organizations alike. And it was surprising to me at first, some time ago, when I first began digging deeper into this. But the fact that there's some sort of cognitive dissonance at play between professional life and personal life, meaning you're the same person at home that you are at work. The way you live your life naturally in both places will ultimately come out in both places. So if you're disorganized in your everyday life, in your home life, in your private life, there's a high likelihood that after a certain point in time, the disorganization is going to show up in the organization at work. And
this has actually been a heartbreaking thing for me when I've been coaching executives, because they let you in to see what their personal life is like.
Yep.
And as that door opens, it's like, holy crap, no wonder you're having a heck of a time at work.
Yes.
You know, your life is 99 times more messy than this.
Mm-hmm.
And so there it goes. I've also seen it the other way, where the people at home are very together. They're pretty good. They got it organized. And then at work, they're a yard sale. But you're right. It's this dissonance. And it's just the way it plays out. It's tough to watch. It's really tough.
The thing is, too, that I've always wondered is how that actually bumps up against your intrinsic motivators and your personal values. Because if you are one way at work and a different way at home, one of those is not you. One of those is you putting in a significant amount of effort to present in a way that you want people to see you. And at some point, there's no more strength left to keep the curtain up. Do you know what I mean? Like something's going to give. The authenticity isn't there.
And that's a very astute observation. And where to me it gets amplified many fold is in a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So in a crisis at work, if the person can be cool and calm and collected, get everybody through the day, and they're doing this because they feel inspired to do more for many. Yet they go home and they burn the toast, and there's either screaming or yelling or crying or whatever. It's like,
something's out of balance somewhere.
Something's slightly out of balance here. And you and I have worked with a client before who had a lovely way of putting this. It's around, like, you can't be of two different mindsets. You're just one person. And when you appear as two different people, or three or four, depending what hat you're wearing,
or what person or crowd you're in front of,
right, it's exhausting.
Yeah. So that's why I think there's something to these organizations that go from crisis to crisis. To me, it's because there is a tipping point between how many individuals are authentically resilient and can handle the situations in front of them versus the number of people that are either trying to fake it till they make it, present in a certain way, and the fatigue of being someone you're not means you can't handle what's going on. There's an imbalance.
This goes back to an episode that we recorded a little while ago about fake resilience.
Yes.
And, and you get these folks, particularly when everything starts going sideways, unilateral decisions that make no sense, proclamations, or complete disappearance. I worked for a guy; he would just disappear.
Yeah,
people appear in all kinds of different ways, and it's not that you and I are indifferent to the load that people carry in life. Not at all. It's more a matter of you're part, especially when you're at work, you're part of a system, and you have a role to play. And if that role requires you to be authentic, they need the best version of the authentic you can give them. And when folks have overextended themselves, or as we too often see, been over promoted, and then don't get coaching, don't get help.
Yes.
Can't say I'm not up to this, or could I get some, mentoring? That's when I see it starts to all go sideways.